My name is Simin Curtis, and I run the American Middle East Institute. We're actually going to give everyone a minute or two to sign in, and then we will start, like at 10:01, 10:02. If you're anything like me, I seem to be tuning in right when a webinar is taking place. So with how busy life is. So we'll just give everyone a moment. Okay, I think we're going to start our webinar. Hello, everyone, wherever you are. My name is Simin Curtis, and I head the American Middle East Institute, which is based here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We're a national and international organization that works to promote business, educational, and cultural ties between the United States and the countries of the Middle East. So greetings to all of you who are tuning in today for our webinar titled Spotlight Oman, Opportunities in Business, Tourism, and Education. We are delighted to have with us two seasoned representatives of their countries, the Ambassador of Oman to the United States, His Excellency Moosa Hamdan Al Tai, coming to us from Washington, D.C., and our American Ambassador to Oman, the Honorable Ambassador Leslie Tsou, who is coming to us live from the U.S. Embassy in Muscat. I'm going to say a few words of introduction of our two ambassadors, but wanted to say a special greeting to His Excellency Sayed Badr bin Hamad bin Hamud Al Busaidi, who is the Foreign Minister of the Sultanate of Oman and a dear friend of mine, who welcomed the first delegation we ever took to the Middle East back in like 2009, and then he came to one of our annual conferences thereafter. And he is a person who has worked for peace in the Middle East for his entire career, and I admire him greatly. And he gave me the honor of appointing me the honorary consul of Oman. And I just want to say a special thank you to Sayed Badr Al Busaidi for being such a friend of the Institute and for all he does to promote peace and understanding and friendship. I just love Oman, and part of why we're holding this is so that all of you who listen will know about this fabulous country, how beautiful it is, how peaceful it is. You want to go there. So without further ado, I'd like to just give a brief intro of our two distinguished ambassadors. We have His Excellency Ambassador Moosa Hamdan Moosa Al Tai, the Ambassador of Oman to the United States. He was appointed in December 2020 and began serving in January of 2021. Most recently, Ambassador Al Tai was the chief of the West Asia Department at the Omani Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He's held many positions. He has been an ambassador to Morocco, ambassador to various countries in Africa, as well as the ambassador to the Republic of Korea, and a very experienced foreign servant for his country. We will then hear from Honorable Ambassador Leslie Tsou. Ambassador Tsou is a career member of the Senior Foreign Service, a class of Minister Counselor. She arrived as ambassador to the Sultanate of Oman on January 10th, 2020. And prior to her appointment, she served as the first deputy chief of mission at the embassy in Jerusalem, and also as the chief of mission at the embassy in Tel Aviv. She's been in many parts around the world, tours of duty in London, Tripoli, Kuwait City, and Warsaw. And she's an expert on many things and in many other countries. So we're delighted to welcome Ambassador Tsou to this webinar about Oman. And the conversation will be moderated by our friend and longtime moderator, Bill Flanagan, who is the Chief Corporate Relations Officer here in Pittsburgh for the Allegheny Conference on Community Development, which works with public and private sector partners to improve the economy and quality of of life of the Pittsburgh region. And Bill also has is a long-time host and producer of our region's business. There's no one better qualified really to lead a conversation about business opportunities and all of the other opportunities that we want to focus on today about on beautiful Oman. So thank you all for being here today. And Bill, why don't you take it away?
All right, Simin, thank you so much. It is great to be with you and with everyone once again for this American Middle East Institute event. I always enjoy these programs because so much of our work at the Allegheny Conference is really focused on the vitality of the 10 counties of southwestern Pennsylvania. But we've also learned in Pittsburgh over the past generation that it was building better bridges to the world that enabled Pittsburgh to engineer a pretty remarkable recovery from the collapse of its industrial economy back in the 1980s. And so anytime we have an opportunity to connect with potential partners around the world, it's good for our region. It's certainly good for businesses here, and it's better for all of us as individuals as well to really have a better understanding of how things are shaping up around the world as well as here in our region. And we really are very fortunate to have with us today the two ambassadors to share their perspective on the unique and quite long-standing relationship between the United States of America and Oman. And so the way this is going to work, I'm going to spend about 15 minutes in a conversation with Ambassador Tai, and then another 15 minutes talking about the relationship and what they see as opportunities, things we all need to know about Oman with Ambassador Tsou. And then we'll open it up for a Q&A and a bit of a conversation among the three of us. So with that, Ambassador Tai, great to see you. Welcome once again to this webinar today.
Thank you very much, Bill. And I would like also to thank Simin Curtis and the American Middle East Institute for giving me this opportunity to speak to their followers. I welcome and thank my colleague, Ambassador Leslie, for joining me on this webinar. It's very important. We have very good relation ourselves, like our two countries. We enjoy very, very good. And as you said, Bill, long, good relations. If you allow me, I will just go for short introduction of what I would like to say, and then I am very happy to continue the conversation with you.
Please proceed.
Is that all right?
Absolutely.
All right. So I'm gonna talk online with our topics, a little bit about our relations and the economy, and a bit about tourism. Obviously, Oman foreign policy strives to have good relation with all states and nations, and we enjoy diplomatic relations with virtually every country in the world, with diplomatic representation with many of them. And we do follow the path of dialogue and encourage it. And we value tolerance, peaceful coexistence, and non-interference in the internal affairs of others. And we also believe in peaceful settlement of disputes. And we try to complement our position by trying to also help facilitate some of these dialogues. With the US, as you stated, we actually enjoy historic relation. This started way back, actually. We are one of the earliest countries to recognize the independence of the United States on our region. And we signed the first treaty in 1833, which was a treaty of friendship and navigation at that time. And we started a diplomatic relation in 1972, which was, in a modern times, and then later on opened diplomatic mission in both capitals. And we do have one of a few countries that have a free trade agreement with the United States that was signed in 2009. And our relation basically span on everything, from bilateral relation in politics, military, trade, and culture, and also cooperation in regional and international organizations. In the economy, we also have very diverse, and our economy as a seafaring nation has been traditionally based on ports and a lot of interaction with our region. And we do go with, long way with the commercial trades. In modern years, obviously, some natural resources influence of our economy, and it was able to enhance our economy and our development. However, we are working on diversifying our economy into new economies in other sectors of economy, including manufacturing and tourism, and a lot of logistics. So basically, it's kind of a very, very, very diverse economy, and we do have some of state-of-the-art industrial estates. One of them is a knowledge economy based, which is called Knowledge Oasis, and then three free zones that actually invite a lot of investment in Oman. We do have recently adopted Oman Vision 2040, which is a master plan to diversify our economy into a more broad sectors, as I said earlier. And I hope many of you are followers and the business community at large to look into that and find ways to even utilize our good free trade agreement to incorporate it into our bilateral economy and trade. We do facilitate a lot of foreign investment, and I would like to highlight what we call Invest Easy portal, which is a very much an internet-based, where investor can go and register. It's more like a one-stop shop where they can do all the investment and dealing on almost over 100 or 1,500 economic activities on one stop. And it covers almost all agencies that need authorization for any business to start in Oman. Basically, that is like a very quick rundown on the economy, but I can provide more detail and specific project for investors if they reach out, but that is also readily available on Invest Oman portal if they want directly to go to that. On tourism, Oman is very special because I'm sure Ambassador Leslie can share a little bit of that she can enjoy, because Oman is very diverse. It has first of all, it's one of the most secure and safest country in the region, and I'm sure the world at large. And it has been repeatedly recommended as must-visit destination by many leading organization and tourist magazines. It's very diverse geography and varied climate, where it's I know many of you associate Middle East with hot climate, but in some areas in Oman, it stays even not very hot, even during summer. A coastline of more than 3,000 kilometers, just around 2,000 miles of white sand and beaches. And very much mountains, constitute the large percentage of the environment in Oman. And one of the highest peaks, which is Jebel Shams, is about over 10,000 feet, which also stays very much convenient to go. In the winter, it's a bit cold, and actually sometimes it snows there, which is very, very rare in our region. And also we have some wadis, what we call, or valleys, which is like basically dry riverbeds, but they do run in the rainy season, and very much good destination for picnic and some of the natural attractions that are around them. You associate the Middle East with the desert, and we do have deserts. You know, it's very unique. You know, a lot of activity. And some of the Bedouin, you know, a must see when you go. We do also, I mentioned the mountains, and I can highlight some of the caves that really, are varying in types of length, size, and geographical formation. And we're going to show a short video later that little bit highlights some of this, but I hope you can explore this in person to site. Visit sometime.
Ambassador, it sounds lovely.
Many of the geological sites that we do have. Thank you very much. I'm just very quickly. Also, I would like to highlight our national airline is Oman Air, but many of the airlines, regional and international airlines, do visit Oman. So it's very much easy to visit. And I'm going to stop here so I give my colleague Leslie also a chance to speak a little bit, and then I can go back and discuss this with you. Thank you very much, Bill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. We can absolutely go back and pick up on a couple of these thoughts. I do have to ask you before we turn to Ambassador Tsou, given the emergence, I mean, here in the United States, we can see the end in sight, hopefully, for the pandemic. I've got to ask you, what's the situation on the ground like there in Oman? How has it affected your country, your economy? And are you optimistic about the ability to resume more normal business relationships as well as tourism in the not too distant future?
We have to be optimistic, but it's a global pandemic, and like many other countries in the world, we were affected by it, and severely, both the economy and people's life and the health system. We are trying, to do as much. The government, the health system, taking over and trying to help. We are getting some of the vaccines as well, because it is very competitive to reach out for the vaccine predictions, and we are getting more and more now. It's not back to normal, but we hope, like the rest of the world, will go back to normal as soon as, it is a little bit less effect, with vaccination and normalization back. We are working on it, but yes, it did affect our economy and the health system.
Yeah, and you talked about your efforts to transition your economy from one that's sort of natural resources dependent to a much more diverse economy. Has the recession and the economic fallout from the pandemic, has that affected your ability to do that? How well is your economy performing right now?
It is underperforming in general, and this is global again. I have to mention, but we are trying to recover as much as we can. The diversification of the economy is going on. Ministry of Commerce announced some, new investment opportunities. So the plans are going. It's slowed down a little bit, but still we are doing our best and utmost to recover from the pandemic and to try to, work on the economy.
Well, I want to come back and talk about some of the opportunities that you see in terms of those efforts and where there might be opportunities for American companies to invest in Oman and help you along with that journey. But perhaps next we can turn to Ambassador Tsou, who has, as we heard, been in Oman for what, a little over a year now since that was your assignment. I've got to ask you as an American, what's your impression of the place? What do your fellow Americans need to know about what's happening in Oman and what it has to offer?
Yeah, so thank you for that. First of all, thank you to Simin and to the American Middle East Institute for hosting me, and it's good to see my distinguished colleague and friend Moosa on the screen. So I arrived in Oman on January 10th, 2020, which was the day that the government announced that Sultan Qaboos had passed away. So I regret very much that I was not able to work, with him or with, the Sultanate under him. But we learned that he was very sick, and the Secretary of State at the time asked me to go out as soon as I could. So I came out, and we had 40 days of mourning. And then we had about a month of work, and then COVID shut everything down. So it has been a very unusual start to a tour. But I have to say that one of the real benefits has been that it was a difficult time. It was a frustrating time. The mission, people were upset in the mission, and it was a scary time. But the Omani people themselves, everyone from the most senior people that I met in the government to, just people who worked in the embassy, normal quote unquote Omanis, was unfailingly kind and welcoming to me. And that's been my experience ever since. I mean, as Simin said, this is a special place. The people are extremely open and welcoming, which is not the case in every country in the region, as you know. So it has been a very good tour overall, despite the many challenges, which of course we've all faced wherever we are. But the Omani people have made it better. So I feel very welcome here.
Ambassador Tai mentioned the long-standing relationship between the United States and Oman, practically from when there was no United States as the country was being founded. How would you describe the relationship today? How significant is this relationship with Oman to the United States?
That's such a timely question. It seems an innocent question, but in fact, I think I would answer it a little bit differently now because we've had a change in administration ourselves. And the people in the United States government now who are doing foreign policy, they are all people, almost all of them worked in the Obama administration, and they know Oman. They know Oman and they appreciate Oman very much. And they know that the role that Oman plays is a really unique one in the international community, especially where Oman is. It's very strategically located, but it's got, Iran to the sort of north and east. It's got Yemen to the west. It's in a rough neighborhood depending on the day, So one of the very first policies that this administration, the Biden administration, announced when it came to foreign policy was to try to do something about the conflict in Yemen. And that was a little bit new because under the Trump administration, the policy was not to actively engage, but to see if we could be supportive of efforts. And now we're taking a much more active role. We have a special envoy who's been appointed, Tim Lenderking, and he has been to Oman several times. I don't even know, several, so I word multiple times to talk to the Omanis because the Omanis have connections inside Yemen that really no other country has. And they have been really strong partners with us. We all agree that the conflict there has gone on for way too long. It's destabilizing for the region, and it's a terrible humanitarian crisis for the people of Yemen who don't, deserve the conditions that they find themselves in. So we suddenly find ourselves extremely intertwined with the Omanis when it comes to Yemen. It's not an easy answer. It's not one of those things that's going to be solved overnight, but we are working together very closely, and we really value and need their insight. And their connections into Yemen because we're far away, but we understand that the conflict is something that affects the whole region and obviously affects us too, being in the region. So I would say our relationship was very good, has been ever since we established relations so long ago, but it's actually become particularly close since the Biden administration came in because of our joint work on Yemen.
Well, Oman really seems to have mastered the art of neutrality in as you say, a very complicated and dangerous world, part of the world that they live in. As someone in the Foreign Service who can appreciate what it takes to do that, I would think it has to impress you as to how Oman manages to navigate that part of the world.
Very much so. I think their policy is one that many people don't understand. And I have to say, it took me a little while to settle into it when I got here, but Foreign Minister Badr, when he became the foreign minister, brought the diplomatic corps together and discussed, what his policy was going forward, which was very much part of the legacy of Sultan Qaboos, which was, friend of all, enemy of none. Keeping communications open so that with the understanding that dialogue is really the only way to resolve an issue. And I agree with all of that, and especially in this day and age, I don't know what war brings to anybody, quite frankly, at this point, given how difficult wars can be, and how weaponry can really destroy people with nothing to do with a war. So we in the United States are really valuing that right now. We have over the years, Oman has played a discreet but very important role in a lot of our biggest initiatives that we've undertaken in the Middle East, and they are continuing to do so.
A lot of what we focus on at the American Middle East Institute, in addition to just bettering relationships in general, is of course economic opportunities. How do you see the current bilateral trade relationship with Oman, and how do you see it evolving as we move forward, especially hopefully emerging from the pandemic?
Yeah, so as Ambassador Tsou mentioned, we do have a free trade agreement with Oman that we signed in 2009. We only, as the United States government, we only have free trade agreements with about 20 countries. So it's a unique thing that we have, and I think shows the confidence that we have in Oman as a destination for commerce and investment. We did see that, as Ambassador Tsou mentioned, we did see that slow down during the pandemic just because it was a global thing. Our economy has slowed down, Oman's economy slowed down, everybody's economy slowed down. But I think that we are emerging from that. In fact, right before I came onto this seminar, I was on a virtual call with an American company that's very interested in investing in Oman. So I think that Oman speaks for itself in many ways. It's a beautiful country. It's very safe, which is very different than other parts of the Gulf. But that's one of the things that I'm dedicated to, and I know my colleague Ambassador Tsou is, to make sure people understand what the opportunities are here in Oman and to help in any way that I can.
I wonder, in the year or so, a year plus you've been there, have you had the opportunity, given the pandemic, to travel around the country very much? Have you really gotten a chance to see Oman? I just wonder how it impresses you as a place to visit.
Yeah. I have to say it's been a slow start, because I first got here, as you know, we had the 40 days of mourning and then a little bit of work, and then everything shut down. And when we say shut down, like so many other countries, we kind of just all stayed indoors for a couple of months under the mistaken impression that the virus would just move on. That didn't end up being the case. So, but governance were shut between them. So I stayed in a Muscat government for a while, but there's lots to see there. And it's only been this year actually that I've managed to get out. But as Ambassador Tsou says, and I can't emphasize enough, it's just an extraordinarily beautiful country with lots and lots to see, and very diverse. Not just the people are very diverse also, but just geographically, as he said, there are high mountain peaks, there are valleys, there is a monsoon that takes place in the west by Salalah. I know you wouldn't think that, but it rains a good part of the year there, where it's very dry and hot in other parts. So it's really quite an extraordinary place. The beaches are just unbelievably beautiful, and it had good tourism before the pandemic, and I have every faith that once people start to get vaccinated and get back out on the traveling internationally, we're going to see a lot of tourists here.
Yeah, the other topic that was part of our title today is really opportunities in education relative to Oman as well. What do you see happening there that's relevant to those of us in the United States?
That's somewhere that I think we have a lot of growth that we can explore. I'd really like to start to do that. Right now, the numbers are about 3,000 Omanis are currently studying at US universities, which is great for us. And I've met a lot of them. There's many Omanis that you meet just in general are either educated in the US or in Great Britain. Their English is excellent, obviously, but I'd like to see that number grow. And we are actually working with the new Sultan's government, including the Minister of Higher Education, who is herself an alumna of the US University, on ways to get more Omanis studying in the US. And conversely, one of the things I'd like to see, again, once the pandemic eases up, is to bring more Americans to Omani universities. I think there would be great synergy there.
Well, I know that's near and dear to our heart here in Pittsburgh, where we have Carnegie Mellon University that, at least historically, has welcomed students from around the world, as well as the University of Pittsburgh. And I know we're all wondering, once the pandemic is over, are those foreign students going to want to come here? Is the US government going to be working to make that happen? Because it's really pretty critical to the business model of our universities here at home as well. Are you optimistic that this can open up again as well, and this could become easier as we move forward?
I am optimistic. I think I think it's just so important. And, Oman is a country where we have such strong relations. A lot of Omani students just go there on their own. They don't look for help from the US government. They apply to the universities, they're accepted, et cetera. But to the extent that we can be helpful, that would be great. I would also really, like I said, like to see more Americans come here. Again, this past year hasn't been really representative of that because, a lot of schools in the United States and in Oman were closed or virtual. But as we open up back, yes, I do think that we're going to see some growth there.
Are there vaccination or visa issues right now in terms of being able to go back and forth to Oman, whether it's for business or pleasure or education? Well, what are the barriers right now?
I don't know if there's the U.S. is finally, I think you would know better being there, but from what I see in the news, the U.S. is kind of turning the corner when it comes to vaccination and our rates are down. Oman has not yet, as Ambassador Tai said. They are starting their vaccination campaign in earnest this coming month, is my understanding. They've had more difficulty getting the vaccine. The United States is a juggernaut when it comes to these things, and we're producing it ourselves. Oman doesn't produce it, so they've had to get it, but it seems like that's finally coming online. But as far as I know, the Omani government does restrict travel from some countries due to the pandemic, but not the United States. So if Americans want to travel to the US, they can come here. They do have to take a test before they get here, and they'll have to quarantine for a certain period of time. But assuming people can go through that, there's no issues. And we're seeing record numbers of, once a record, but very many Omanis coming to the embassy to get visas to go to the United States. And we're very much encouraged that so many people want to go. And I think part of it is just because it's the situation in the US is so good compared to other places. So if you were going to go for a vacation in the summer, the US is probably a prime destination because of the fact that the pandemic is coming under control there.
I was just traveling.
I don't want to say if it is under control, because I'm not sure that will ever be the case, but.
Yeah, under control, you're right, may not be the word, but it certainly is encouraging. I was on vacation last week in the mid-Atlantic, and it felt like we could feel a little normal, right? And Ambassador Tai, you're in the United States. It has to be encouraging to you as you think ahead to the future for Oman to see how things are beginning to work out here in the United States. If you can get the vaccines, if you can get them administered, there should be real optimism, I would think, in Oman.
Yes. As Ambassador Tsou said, the fact that the US manufactures its own vaccine, it was easier to get a hold of, a big quantity here. So it's kind of an advantage. We had to purchase ours, but we are catching up, and I'm very impressed how the US did it in the last few months, especially since the Biden administration, and this is kind of like, I don't know how the rest of the world sees this, but like there is more vaccine available and less people are interested in it, which is, it's the opposite of what is happening in other regions. But you have to congratulate the, very, 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 good management, and especially the manufacturing and development of the vaccines and the way it has been administered by the states and by the local communities.
Yeah, we feel pretty good here in Pennsylvania because we're running ahead of the rest of the country in terms of the percentage of vaccination. And we anticipate being to open up much more aggressively as this month wears on. So it really plays an important part. And people are itching to get out and travel. I mean, talk about pent-up demand. I assume that's true around the world and not just here in the United States. So what will you be doing in Oman to encourage tourists to come visit as it becomes easier and more possible? Ambassador Tai.
Yes, it is. It's a global, pandemic. So things are opening up in line with like the other countries. And as Ambassador Tsou said, Oman has some restriction in some countries, but not from the US. I noticed like many people are traveling from here to Oman, mostly business, but maybe some, visiting their, like relatives or friends. I also see some people traveling from Oman to here. It's summer is coming soon. So it's like people have been basically restricted from traveling for a long time and they just want to get away. I saw this here, this long weekend, the Memorial Day weekend, a lot of people were traveling. I'm sure, people can go to Oman and find a way. It is easing up a little bit, but we are not there yet 100%, but I hope that day will come soon.
well, it's going to be a transition, I think, for everyone in the world. Ambassador, so you mentioned you had a meeting earlier today talking about a company interested in investing in Oman. What are you seeing in general about the interest of American business in becoming active again over there? Has it been picking up as we've moved into 2021?
It's picking up, but it's not where it's going to be. I mean, I think, again, I'm watching all this from Oman, but our economy is still struggling to get back on its feet. I have every faith that that will happen, but I think there's going to be a bit of a, it seems there will be a bit of a lag time between getting the virus, again, I don't know if we can say under control, but better than it was, and then watching the economy move forward. But we're ready to, help investors when they're ready to come. And I do think that that's going to start coming. We're also, I'm interested, and this is kind of a more meta question, but, we're emerging into a world that we don't fully understand yet, but it's not going to be the same world that we were in before. And so, I think that Oman has uniquely positioned themselves, as Ambassador Tai said, they took time during the pandemic, and because the new Sultan wanted to take a fresh look at Oman's economy and do some more diversification, Oman is ready to look at new opportunities, not just new businesses coming in, but like new sectors to be developed. I think that they're very open to that. And so they're not looking to pick up where they left off, they're looking to develop in new ways, and we're looking at a new world. So the fact that they're flexible, that they've developed this website that Ambassador Tai talked about, but also that they've really overhauled their registrations of businesses and the different rules that they have in order to, they're very much looking, to a new world after the pandemic. And I think that puts them in a really good position.
One of the questions that we received from the audience was just support for entrepreneurs, Omani entrepreneurs in particular, who might already have relationships with American companies to better introduce, entrepreneurs on either side of the ocean to opportunities in Oman. Are there specific steps being taken right now that business people need to be aware of? And I'll ask both of you that question. Ambassador, so if you want to start, and then we can.
I mean, if there are American investors who are interested in investing in Oman, we have a commercial officer here who is dedicated to that. His name is Simin, but I would actually ask people to, just reach out to the embassy. You can call our switchboard. We have a lot of contact information on our website. Get in touch with us, because we have a person here who's dedicated to doing all of that. People are also really welcome to reach out to me directly, through the embassy. I'm happy to try and engage with that. It's one of the things that the Sultan has made clear to us as the US government is he'd like to see an increase in trade between our two countries. It's been down, obviously, as trade's been down everywhere. But once we get back online, and again, what does that even mean? But as the world economy begins to recover, it's one of my primary goals. And I know that I have willing partners in my Omani government contacts and in Ambassador Moosa. If we don't know the answer, we will work together to find it. So.
Ambassador Tai, where does entrepreneurship fit into your economic revitalization strategy in Oman? I mean, it's one thing to go out after big companies to get them to make big investments. It's another thing to encourage people to roll up their sleeves and start businesses and try to build from the ground up. Are you working on that as well in Oman to try to encourage that kind of activity?
Yeah. One of the advantages with Oman is actually Oman is the size, the size of the economy allows small businesses and mid businesses to actually do prosper in Oman. It's not only for the large businesses. We are very much like an economy that welcome all. And some of the opportunities available in Oman are for the small business and for the entrepreneurs to start something that is new and explore the opportunities. We are here at the embassy ready to help. And, people can reach out to us, they can go directly to Oman investment, portfolios and among others. And very much like everything is available. One of the things and the challenges is true that, a lot of people don't know the framework agreements and the incentives that we have for some of the business to start. And this is where we can help and get them, the right contacts and how they do their things and, what kind of activities they can start with. We are very, very happy and keen to help.
That's good. Lean on both embassies. If you seem to be fairly available here in Pittsburgh right now, I could get it.
Well, they should go to Pittsburgh.
Don't even need an
Invest in
appointment.
Pittsburgh.
Just walk up, right? We're here. We're ready. Come get you. Go to Sam's Club. Go to the supermarket. Everybody's got vaccine, which is great. And it is a wonderful thing about the United States and its capacity. And hopefully we can help the rest of the world find its way forward. How about kind of a technical question, Ambassador Tsou, for you from one of our audience members? Just an observation that from pursuing business in Oman, that except for the oil and gas sector, there's a lack of US standards and specifications for products that they would like to sell into Oman, and that Oman tends to be influenced greatly by European, especially UK specs. And so this American businessman feels, why bother? We don't have a fighting chance. You're going to be biased in favor of the UK and European specs. So the question is, what do we do? What do you all do about it? I guess on both ends of this bilateral relationship to make Oman more receptive to the way, I guess, we make things here in America. Ambassador Tsou.
Actually, standardization and specification is the GCC unified code. It's not based, maybe influenced by international, organization, but it's a GCC and it's one unified code of standardization that applies to all Gulf, countries. So it's not, I'm probably, we can clarify this later to the guy who is asking the person, but it's not true. And if there is any misconception, we can also help with that. But it's a GCC standardization that is applied to everybody.
Yeah, I wonder, Ambassador Tsou, have you seen that this could be a perception issue rather than a reality issue? I mean, have you seen this being a barrier at all for American companies that want to do business in Oman?
I haven't seen it. Again, I don't know the specifics of the particular product that this business person is talking about, but there are plenty of US products here.
Okay, good. So another reason to reach out to the embassies and try to really understand what the rules are and what the opportunities are as well. Another question, Ambassador Tsou, from a member of the audience regarding Oman's participation in China's Silk Road and Belt Initiative. The Chinese foreign minister recently visited Oman and suggests that Oman is interested in having more Chinese tourists come visit there once the COVID crisis is under control. So is that an initiative that Oman is going to take seriously? Or are you going to be going after the Chinese tourism market as well as the American tourism market?
As far as tourism, it's an open business, and I'm sure everybody is welcomed. We don't have specific initiative towards China, but I'm sure like American tourists, Chinese can visit. Many of the tourists come through packages and things, and if there is any kind of initiative there for the Chinese market, I'm not aware of it, but there could be. But there's no specific targeting of Chinese market that I am aware of. And, tourism is basically open and works in different ways. One of them is these chartered, packages and things that are available globally. And I'm sure some of them may be appealing to the Chinese tourists as well.
And I think more broadly with what's going on in China, and I know Oman specializes in being Switzerland and neutral across the board, but do you see opportunity there for Oman and its economy if you could build your economic relationship with China as well as the United States?
We do, we think peace, and peaceful coexistence should help the economy, not just for us, but for the region as well. And basically, we have contributed to, peaceful settlements and dialogue, and we will continue to do that. We are affected by it. If you look at Oman as it's one of the most peaceful countries, but people look at the bigger picture and think the whole Middle East is insecure and so on. We would like to have all the region secured and very, very much prosperous, not just Oman. But we are very happy also to claim that Oman is very peaceful, and that will contribute to our, economy and prosperity.
Great. I have another question from the audience, again, regarding entrepreneurs, and you two are going to have to help me figure out exactly what this question is about. But it's a question that can both the Oman embassy in Washington as well as the US embassy in Muscat work more to support entrepreneurs in both countries with the E2 treaty investor status to remove existing bureaucracy in various government sectors in Oman. I get the sense that there's something about the bureaucracy in Oman that may make it harder for entrepreneurs to be able to operate there. Does that, either of you want to explain what that issue is about and what's being done to address it, if indeed it is a concern?
So this is my understanding of it, which may be very incomplete, but an E2 is a type of investment visa that the United States offers to people who are planning to come to the United States and to invest a significant amount of money there. So if you can qualify under many different categories of visa, but E2 is a specific treaty that is a specific type of visa, but it has to be there has to be an agreement between two countries to start the E2. So for example, I was in Israel in my last tour, and there's a tremendous amount of trade and communication between the US and Israel, but we only opened up the E2 for Israeli investors while I was there. It has to be an agreement between two countries. And to my knowledge, we do not have an E2 investment visa agreement with Oman. I mean, that could come, of course, and that doesn't mean that Omani investors can't go there, but it's a specific type of visa that allows a big investor to go there. And again, it doesn't rule out others, but it's a specific type. As far as the Omani bureaucracy goes, I think Ambassador Tsou can probably address that better than I can, but I would just say that, from my vantage point here, since the pandemic shut everything down, that's something that the Omani government is trying very hard they understand that bureaucracy is an issue and they're doing very hard to overcome it. And as we move out of the pandemic and towards more investment, not just from American companies, but from all different types of countries, we'll have an opportunity to test the new system and see where it works and see where it doesn't. But as I said also earlier, I'm very confident that the Omanis want to work with us. Like if we start down a road with the new process and we come across a roadblock, I think it can be addressed. I feel very confident about that.
How about it, Ambassador Tsou? Do you feel you're making progress on the bureaucratic front there in Oman too?
Obviously, there is a lot of business that has been working and that overcome some of these when bureaucratic challenges are addressed. The other businesses have overcome them. So probably there is a path, a way to overcome them. I am sure it's harder for startups and people who want to do business for the first time because they don't know what to anticipate. We are working on this. We are working, the government is working in this. And I mentioned, like, for example, one-stop shop, where actually all the authorization for different agencies can be done at one place. That is one way to shortcut the process. All these process and government agency exists everywhere. We just try to expedite and make it easier for the investors, to come and do it in a more convenient way.
Great. We've only got a minute or so left before I'll turn things back over to Simin to begin wrap things up. But Ambassador Tsou, I've got to ask you, now you're here in the United States right now, and Ambassador Tsou's over there in Muscat, but she hasn't really had much of a chance to see your country. So what would be at the top of your list? If you could take her for a couple of days around Oman, what would you absolutely want her to see? Because I suspect it would be great advice for any American tourist thinking about visiting your country. So what's at the top of your list?
One thing I would highlight, in Oman, in a couple of days, you basically almost see half of Oman. Because in Oman, actually, you can drive between the coast, which is like a very, very beautiful sea coast, very warm, white sand, to a mountain within like maybe an hour drive, or go to the desert and have like a desert camping or trekking and these kind of activities in another hour. You can drive like for the, a fort that is maybe one of the, let's say, UNESCO World Heritage forts or castle within 30 minutes. So very much in 2 days, Ambassador Leslie can do a lot of things and very, very conveniently. She can go camping. She can stay in one of the 5-star hotel that is very luxury, or just have a small, camp in the desert where she can count the stars and so on. I can answer these questions for hours. I think I will stop there.
That's great. Well, Ambassador, so it sounds like he's got quite an agenda for you if you can find the time to get out and explore the country.
Sounds amazing.
I wanted to just jump in because we had intended to show a brief video, which we're going to show now before we even got to the Q&A, and I think we just got a little bit out of order. Just which I just want to mention that I know that everything has been closed. I mean, this has been a pandemic, a global pandemic, and we're all starting to recover. I'm very optimistic that we're going to get back. We may not be, it might be a different version of normal, but I am very optimistic that people are going to get back to business, the business of the world, the business of the trade that's so important, and taking advantage of the free trade agreement that we have with Oman. And I have to say, the 1 minute video we're going to show you is just a really quick glimpse of some of the beauty of Oman. They tend to get the lion's share of tourists from, Europe and other points, maybe points east, maybe, the Chinese, farther east in Asia coming over. But, we'd love to see more tourism to Oman. The delegations we have brought over the years to Oman and visiting around the country, you will not see, I can't imagine a site that's more beautiful to bring your family and all the different activities there are. So I don't know if we'll have time for more questions, but I want to show, and if there are questions, please write them and I'll show you this quick video, and then we can, if there's a question or two, we'll wrap up after that. So here we go.
Wow, definitely not my preconceptions of what Oman would be like. Thank you for sharing the video, and a great way to top our conversation and your recommendations for Ambassador Tsou as well. We do have one question that came in through the Q&A that we probably should touch on, and that is any current infrastructure projects underway or planned for the near future in Oman that folks here should be aware of. Ambassador Altai.
I'm not sure of any major, but obviously a lot of, Oman has developed in this infrastructure in the last 20, 30 years a lot, with a lot of highways built and the ports, But for example, in Dokum, which is a free zone that is, the latest of our major three major free zones, it is developing. And I'm sure there is a lot of projects that would relate to infrastructure, including like, there is building a refinery, so a lot of secondary industries that would come handy there, and the roads, and the city itself is very, very much rapidly developing. But I can go back and check for anything that of interest to your, the question, and get back to a specific answer, hopefully, if they follow with us.
And also, if I can just say that we, the embassy, are hosting in conjunction with the Omani Ministry of Commerce and Industry, a virtual infrastructure summit, which will take place soon on June 21st. And we are going to talk about, investment in Oman, in the different ports, the different free trade zones. And I will be speaking on that panel, but also we'll have an investment member of the Ministry of Commerce on there, plus representatives from the ports of Salalah, Port of Duqm, Port of Sohar, and then the Public Authority for Special Economic Zones and Free Zones. So if people have specific questions about infrastructure, that's a very good place to come and see what's on offer. So.
And once again, how will people find you if they want to join you for that?
So there's a contact email I can give people now, and you should be able to also access this by our our website. I have just approved the text today, which is why it's in my mind. The contact is Muscat Commercial, one word altogether, @state.gov. Muscat Commercial @state.gov. If you're interested in that, please email us and we'll send you a link to register. And it's free.
And that is June 21st, as you said. And
it is June 21st.
Our institute will be delighted to send out a blast about that more than once even. People need reminding, as we all know. So we'd be delighted to actually send that out in one of our blasts to alert people about this virtual summit on infrastructure. So.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Well, let me just take this opportunity then to thank both distinguished ambassadors who have enlightened us about Oman and the opportunities in Oman. Thank you, Ambassador Tai, for being part of this, and welcome to the United States as the ambassador of Oman to the United States in Washington. I look forward to getting down to Washington, D.C. to meet you in person, traveling, opening up a lot, and I look forward to that moment. And Ambassador Tsou, thank you so much for giving the American perspective and about what's going on in Oman. And now, of course, things were closed, but things are starting to pick up, and we wanted to get a jump start on that and get Oman in people's minds, because it is a country I love, visited many times. And you, as I said earlier, you won't find friendlier people, more peaceful people, and more beauty. It's just you saw from that video. There's just you have to go see it and bring your family, conduct business and bring your family too. And Bill Flanagan, thank you very much for being once again our moderator. If any of you come to Pittsburgh, we've hosted many delegations from the Middle East, and we always have Bill, who is a historian really of our city, give a special presentation about our city's history and just the opportunities that are here in manufacturing and energy and healthcare and robotics, and there's just a lot going on. So we look forward to welcoming those of you who are interested in coming to Pittsburgh. So thank you once again. This was very informative, and we look forward to everyone coming out of COVID and things getting back to as near normal as possible. And we appreciate your gracious presentations, and stay safe, everyone. And we're delighted we're at this point now, and it's not like it was a year ago. So, all right, take care, and thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill.
So much.
Okay.
Thank you, Bill.